The Chiefs are back at it, at least mostly. What's going on in Texas? How is this moving forward? And what are they getting ready for as they meet for the first time in the offseason? We have the big update for you today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform we can imagine, and maybe some that we haven't, particularly here on YouTube. If you would like, sub, and hit the bell, that would help us out. We would appreciate it. And leave us your iTunes reviews. Leave us your Spotify reviews. We'd like to hear that, and it's a good way to give us feedback. If you have comments on the show in general, put them in the YouTube comments. We do have a chance to see those with a lot more regularity, thanks to what that they are. We appreciate you making us your first listen. If you would check out another Locked On show for your second listen today, maybe the Locked On NFL Draft show. It's a good one. I hope that you guys are ready for it. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, the home of the Athletic Matrix, as well as the most analytical, statistical draft guide that you're going to find outside of the guys that actually crunch the numbers. I hope that you will check that out over at rogueapc.com. Use the code Locked On for a nice discount. Big takeaway today is they are back in the building. Chris, how does that make you feel?
I'm really excited that they're back in the building. I think it's great that they're technically, I guess, back in the building. Some
That's
of
where
them
I was
are.
going.
Most of them aren't, but we'll get into that in just a second. My name is Chris Clark, founder of Chiefs Corner. You can find it at KC Chiefs Corner. And I know I said this on yesterday's show, but I want to say it again. Thank you, because we did hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and go follow us on YouTube if you're not already. We are going to have a lot of stuff going on, especially with the draft coming up next week. But really what it comes down to is you start looking at what this means for this team. They're basically in a scenario where they're doing their offseason workouts, and Reid allowed them to be virtual for one reason, and it's because everybody is with Patrick Mahomes, or all the wide receivers and all the tight ends are with Patrick Mahomes in Texas, working out and getting chemistry and getting on the same page.
Where the stars at night are big and bright. Everybody down there in Texas, deep in the heart. And I think that's a good thing. That's the big takeaway. We're going to get to what that means and what that provides them in terms of an opportunity team-wise in a minute. But just the fact that the staff is comfortable with that, I think that says in what is the season that probably has shocked Chiefs fans the most in terms of departures, trading away Tyreek Hill, like to allow Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy as well, to put that faith, put that trust in Patrick Mahomes. I think that we see a turning of a tide. And I think that is illustrated by one other point too, that Andy Reid, when asked, was very, I think, coy about saying that, hey, it's not going to be significantly different an offense without Tyreek Hill in it.
Yeah, and I think that plays a part into what they're doing with the different pieces they're bringing in. But I do think it's interesting. You mentioned that they're letting Patrick Mahomes lead this. It's not just Patrick Mahomes. It's also Travis Kelce. He is also a huge leader on this offense. He's not Patrick Mahomes, and I get that. But he has stepped up in a big way in his leadership role, and I think that is going to play a big part, especially because you're not going to probably have a big veteran presence at the wide receiver position this year. You're going to be mostly young. Juju and MVS are still young guys. I mean, they're veterans to an extent, but they're still young receivers. So I think that's going to play into it a little bit. And the other shock factor that we haven't discussed, I know we're talking offense, but the other shock factor is it came out that the Chiefs never extended an offer to Tyrann Mathieu, who was basically the leader of their defense. So now you're in a situation where you're trying to figure out who that guy is, and the guy that talked today was Nick Bolton.
And I think that's been the plan all along. We knew about the replacement linebacker for linebacker at that level with Anthony Hitchens. The fact that that's really what it looks like here, just from the first day of, the first thing they do in the offseason, that's fair. Tyrann Mathieu's still out there on the street. Yeah, exactly. It is a concise, consistent message that they're trying to put out there. And I will tell you this, I think that's good that the staff overall is allowing the leadership in the locker room to take over. And I get your point about Travis Kelce. He is a leader as well. But let's be honest. If Travis was the leader, workouts would be in Cincinnati, or in Ohio somewhere. You know what I mean? But just the fact that it's taken it one step farther of not just entrusting your entire offense to Mahomes, to letting him manipulate the plays, to letting him suggest plays, to let him design plays. Now it's, hey, you know what? This whole thing where we're supposed to be organized activity, you just handle that stuff down in the heart of Texas.
Well, the other thing is that you're not going to be able to do the same things you can do in Texas that you could do, or sorry, you're not going to be able to do the same things you can do in Texas that you could do at Arrowhead. Like you can't go and do the passing drills that they're doing in Texas. They're allowed to do that on their own time, but they can't do it at the stadium. So in a way, they're getting around being able to practice in a way. And I think that's a huge benefit when you're bringing in new guys.
Well, and that's the key. It's like you said, you're not going to be drastically veteran at the position. We can't foresee that. But the key is the two guys right now that you feel you have to go to are guys that don't know the offense, have never caught a pass from Patrick Mahomes to this point in Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez. I always say his name wrong. Valdez Scantling. MVS for short, and I'll try to revert to that again. But that is like the jump in the fire. This is, I think, not fallout, but the evolution of the fact that, hey, we didn't get to our goal last year and being in the Super Bowl. And maybe after our first Super Bowl appearance, we had a little bit of a hangover. It was a long season. We were a little bit wore out. Now we're getting back to working. Previous to this, we're putting in that offseason work before OTAs. We're jumping the gun to get these guys that are new into the system and in on the same page so that we can hit the ground running when we're all together in Kansas City.
Yep. And that's exactly what they need to do. So I'm glad to see that they're getting it done. And, we've talked about it multiple times with doing multiple mock drafts. I still think that they take maybe 2 wide receivers in the first 8 picks that they have, maybe Could 2 in the first 6. It's going to be something to watch.
Oof. It's going to be a lot. And there's a number of players that I think that they have to put their trust in, and maybe they will be some of the rookies, but, everybody needs a boost. We're going to talk about what that boost needs to be right now for what's going on in Texas. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Athletic Greens because they give you everything you need. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, as well as probiotics and adaptogens. So that gives you immune health. It gives you mental health. It gives you digestive health. It gives you the simplicity of just having a single source for all of that. And it can help your body in a number of ways. And that helps your overall life. You can send it to family and friends. It's super easy. It comes in a nice powder. AG1 is the miracle that I drink every morning at this point. It makes it really easy. It's a little scoop of this powder with all that nutrition in it into a cup of water. Shake it up and you're ready to go. And I actually enjoy what it does for me in terms of energy, in terms of digestive health in particular. It makes me a little sharper throughout the day. I'm kind of a night person, so it warms up my morning in terms of mental acuity and getting everything going a little bit earlier. And for me, when the price is for less than a cup of coffee, which I already drink enough of, adding on to that makes it a lot worth it for me. So I really enjoy that. I think that you guys will. And right now they're giving you a chance to reclaim your health and your immune system for an easy, convenient daily nutrition with a free supply of immunosupporting vitamin D that is an additional supplement and 5 free travel packs when you make your first purchase now. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NFL network. That is athleticgreens.com/NFL network and take ownership of your health and your immune system and pick up everything that you need for your nutritional insurance. The other thing that you got to do is you got to figure out a way to get your action in. Today, to get it on the line in a smart way, whether it's baseball, which still makes no sense to me that they're actually having a season. So every bet is crazy, in my opinion. You can have NHL. You can do all this draft stuff. The draft props are going nuts, folks. You need to check out the odds for the Chiefs as well in terms of playoff appearance, Super Bowl appearance. All that is coming along. And you can put your money on the line right now by wagering over at betonline.ag or betonline.net or betonline straight. What you can do is get all the information, the podcast, all the extra stuff that you need to make your plays in a smart way. That's where you got to go. And that's BetOnline, where the game starts. Texas. Makes me hungry.
And you're sitting here talking about, I think it's funny that you were the one doing the Athletic Greens read just because you are a former strength and conditioning coach. So it kind of really fits right in there. Just a little bit.
I tell you what, Athletic Greens AG1 tastes a lot better than the stuff that I used to make my guys drink 10, 15, 20 years ago. I guarantee you that.
Bless them then. So we start looking at what this means for this offense. And, you and I had a mock draft yesterday where they took 2 wide receivers back to back. Not saying I expect Kansas City to do that, but it is an opportunity that they have in this draft with all the talent that they're going to have in that second round. So it is going to be something you're going to have to be looking at. But when you start looking at getting these wide receivers acclimated, this also gives you the ability a little bit to at least maybe get some of the rookies acclimated a little bit quicker when they come in for their sessions with Patrick Mahomes, because maybe they can step to the front of the line and take a couple of extra snaps that they wouldn't have got otherwise.
Yeah, it makes room for everybody. The extra work is a benefit to everyone that has to learn. And that is the vets, that will be the rookies. You're absolutely right. But the intriguing thing to me is they went out of their way today to talk about the one guy who doesn't need reps in the offense. At least he shouldn't at this point. And emphasizing what Mecole Hardman can be in this offense. And Patrick himself saying things. Let me pull the quote up here.
And Mecole talked too.
Yeah, but Mecole should talk about himself. He should pump himself up. It's his teammates. It's his coaches. It's when Patrick says, I expect big things from him. That's the statement to me that stands out, because I want Mecole to say that. He has said it in the past. So, like, he should have that self-confidence. It's the confidence of his quarterback who has to deliver the ball that makes the big turning point for me. And it feels like, I know people were worried that he wasn't down in Texas initially when they started these workouts and that kind of thing. Seems that he's there now. It seems that Patrick's very aware of him. And there's so many things that he can do. Patrick pointed that out as well. But it is Mahomes driving that home that I think makes the big difference now, that will pay off in the season.
Well, and Mahomes wasn't the only one. Andrew Reid made a point of talking about Mecole Hardman as well. I think that points out things. The other big thing that you really need to look at going into this is, you're absolutely right. He absolutely needs to be the one that has the self-confidence in himself. It's great to hear that from Mahomes. It's great to hear from Reid. But he's also said at times that, he was sitting behind one of the best wide receivers in football. Well, now he's not. So now it's his time to have a chance to shine. And as far as not being down there when it first started, all these guys have different schedules. I'm not going to begrudge a guy missing a week, especially when he's been in the offense for 4 years and knows his positions, when the other guys don't have a clue for the most part.
Right. Because, again, that's reps that he doesn't necessarily need that they do. It is about performance and stepping up when you're called upon. And I think that all lends itself to that goal. That's perfectly fine. I think the key right here is, and maybe they end up making our mock yesterday look dumb. Maybe they're like, why would we take wide receivers in the top 50? Well, maybe they're comfortable with Mecole and Juju and MVS being their three. And if that's the case, then this just goes that much farther towards cementing that, in my mind, is this time with Patrick one-on-one. Do you disagree?
I don't necessarily disagree, but I have to argue that I have a hard time believing that they're not going to take a wide receiver early. And the only reason I say that is because I don't think them bringing Jameson Williams to Kansas City was a smokescreen. Now, they haven't brought other guys. They haven't brought other top wide receivers. So maybe it's Jameson Williams is their guy, and they're going to do whatever they can to draft him. Or maybe I guess it could be a smokescreen. But to me, that one visit means a lot, because that they're looking at a guy that they think can be the guy and the number one wide receiver in this offense. And he could be. He has the ability to be.
He could. There are a lot of guys that could be, though.
It's true.
He's not the only one. Because of the fit, I just gave Drake London to the Atlanta Falcons at 8 this week in the Locked On NFL draft, because that's a fit too. Like, and he has a different skill set, but he certainly has the ability to be a force. There's a number of guys in this offense.
And I guess that's the thing. And this is where it's going to change a little bit. Reid says it's not going to change a lot. I think it's going to change a bit. And I don't mean that it's going to be a huge change and that fans are going to see it near as much, but it's going to have to change, because you're not going to have Tyreek Hill doing what he's done in the past. So you're going to have to adapt a little bit. But the question is are they going to adapt, and they're going to bring in different types of wide receivers? It doesn't really look that way, because they're still looking at, the top speed guy in the draft, the number one receiver in Jameson Williams. So they're not looking at a guy like Drake London, who is, fast enough, but he is a big, huge body wide receiver. That's a completely different skill set and a completely different type of wide receiver. So it doesn't look like they're really shifting into maybe what they could do in other ways.
Yeah, right? And that's absolutely true. And there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options still on this roster too, and that's where the lines start to get blurry for me. We should talk about some of those guys.
Yeah, and we will talk about some of those guys when we get back from talking about our friends over at Rock Auto. Rock Auto is one of my favorite places to go, because you can easily go and get car parts that you need on your phone or on your computer. Just go to rockauto.com and be able to find whatever you want that you need for your car. Why choose to spend 30 to 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. They have everything you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpets. Anything that you possibly could need for your car. Go check out their easy-to-use website today to find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. And I know you love that site.
I do. It helps me because I break stuff on my truck a lot. But I have to let you guys know, don't miss the live draft show. We're going to be streaming all over the place. Streaming services, Roku, on the Locked On NFL main YouTube channel, as well as everywhere else. We're going to have some content here on this channel, as well as all of our Locked On shows that will then feed into the main broadcast that Eric Crocker and I will be running with some of our Locked On Now folks and a bunch of our hosts jumping in with the picks. It's going to be a huge production, more than you've ever seen from the Locked On Network before, and I'm really excited about it. We'll be live from Dallas, Texas, in studio. I hope that you guys will join us and take a look at that as well. Yep. Also, you want to check out the ultimate mock draft that is kicking off this week. That is where all of our hosts actually make the selections as we go through the final mock of the season.
Yeah, and we made a selection and made a trade, I believe. So just
forecasting. Yes.
Yep. Just going to throw that out there.
So, trade aside, you have to fit any new receivers into this particular offense. And this offense, like Andy said, it's not going to be significantly different. It can be slightly different. I think that they do have a number of tight ends. You could see them go back to what we saw a few years ago, more double tight, some triple tight as well. But I agree with you. I think they have to have more weapons, whether it's, somebody that you want to trade up for that you feel is that elite, or whether it's just building out guys that can compete with the rest of the roster, because Dries Fountain is still on this team. I think he's going to push for the roster again. I know he was right on the edge of it back and forth last season. I think there's skill there. I think there's other talent here. Could we see Powell do anything? We just don't know because we don't have any update on him. But there are plenty of players in this draft that come in and compete and give the offense more options.
Yeah, and the big thing that you have to remember last year, and this is the thing that really sticks out to me when you look at what Kansas City did last year, it was basically you're going to be throwing to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. Not all the time, but 60% of the time probably. Yeah. So in that scenario, you're going to be looking at a switch regardless of what you want, just because Hill's not here. But I also think you're going to be looking at a scenario where Juju takes a little bit of Kelce's snaps as well. And I'm not talking necessarily snaps near as much as targets.
Yeah.
They can do a lot of the same types of things, and that can save Travis Kelce's body, which I think is going to be good for his longevity, which is something that they have to really be thinking about at his age. I know he's still playing well, and I think he's still elite. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying Juju gives them the ability to do things that they didn't have a wide receiver that could do the same things last year. So I think that's going to be a plus. What is MVS's role going to be in this offense? What are they going to do with McCall Hardman? There's still questions there. We've seen what they've done with Hardman in the past. He's got to step up and do more this season than he's done in the past because Tyreek Hill's not here anymore. The biggest question that you have, though, is who is going to be the alpha of that group. Obviously, you have your alpha at tight end with Travis Kelce, but you're going to have an alpha in the wide receiver room. And I don't know if that guy's on the roster right now, but I do think that this is the draft that they got to go find that guy.
I agree with you. Finding him is, and whether that's pushing someone to emerge, my money would be on Juju if there is someone on the roster right now, just because of his personality and what we've seen of that so far. But you have to find someone. You're absolutely right. And I'm not discounting guys like Josh Gordon that folks have a lot of interest in. Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman's still a shot in the dark to me because he's been out of football over 2 seasons.
So is Josh Gordon, for that matter.
Well, we saw him on the field a little bit at least last season. Maybe but he have more upside.
But he didn't do what we were expecting him to do last year. So the question is can he get back to anywhere close to where he was before? I don't expect him to be the Josh Gordon of old that was tearing defenses apart. But can he be that third or fourth wide receiver? Because he can't play special teams. So if he's not going to give you that, he can't be on this roster.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. So there are more options. I know a lot of fans want to see the guys that have been here before resurge, and a lot of folks seem to have interest in Corey Coleman. I'm not getting my hopes up for Corey Coleman. I don't know that he can make the roster right now, especially if they spend a draft pick or 2, especially if it's in the top 50. I find that harder and harder to believe every moment. But
and one of the other things that Yeah, and one of the other things that you're going to have to worry about is who's going to be your returners this year. McCole Hardman was your punt returner. He's done kickoffs before. Is he going to continue to be a returner? Or are you going to be looking at bringing in a guy that can be a returner this year in the draft?
That's kind of my thought, because Mike Hughes isn't on the roster any longer, folks.
Right. So big questions when it comes to this entire group, but they do still have the ability to. The thing that excites me about this group is you don't have to think that it's going to be just one guy at the wide receiver position. Don't get me wrong. I like Byron Pringle. I like what he brought to the team last year. But outside of Tyreek Hill, that wide receiver group really didn't produce the way you want it to. Nowhere close. And that is exactly what they're trying to avoid this season. And that's why I would expect that they could look at taking 2 guys in the top 4 rounds, because they're trying to rebuild that position. And if you're trying to rebuild it the best way you possibly can, you have the capital because of the Hill trade. Go get your guys.
I agree. We'll see if they actually do. We'll see if we get any more hints about it this week as well. Workouts are going to continue virtually. We'll have more for you as stuff comes around. Do have some clips coming with Dane Brugler. You'll hear from him later in the week. Matt Derrick is up tomorrow. Make sure that you are subbed on all the platforms, especially over on YouTube. We're continuing to grow over there. You guys get to see some things when we do visual aspects of the show, and that's kind of a nice new twist. So thank you for your time. Make sure you get all that, Chris. I'm out of ideas for today. I'm just ready to get to football.
I'm ready to get to the draft. I'm so ready to get to the draft. I'm just looking forward to watching it and being able to talk about the new draft picks and how they're going to fit into this offense and defense, because I think that there's going to be a lot of draft picks spent on the defensive side of the ball as well. So, yeah. Don't forget, folks, jump over to rogueapc.com. Use that code LOCKEDON to get your discount on the draft guide and the athletic matrix. A lot of information in there. So thanks for listening to us today. We'll be back with you tomorrow.